Good day, enterprise owners in the inshore fleet, lobster license holders in particular. This podcast is for you. The topic today is the 2023 price of lobster and a warning. A warning about how you may not be getting a fair share of the market price for your lobster. Now, before I get to that, a few facts on this province's lobster fishery and how the pricing system works for lobster. The lobster fishery in this province's third largest commercial fishery behind snow crab and northern shrimp. Snow crab is number one. It had a landed value last year of 757 million, more than all other fisheries combined. The number two and number three commercial fisheries in terms of landed value were northern shrimp, followed closely by lobster. Northern shrimp had a landed value last year of 125 million. That's well behind crab, 757 million, like I said. Lobster came in third in terms of landed value with 105 million. And that's up from 84 million in 2021. So lobster is the number three fishery in terms of landed value in Newfoundland and Labrador, number three. DFO does not set a quota for lobster, and landings are on the rise. 13 million pounds of lobster were landed last year in Newfoundland and Labrador. 11 million pounds were landed in 2021. Almost 10 million pounds were landed in 2020. Those are all DFO numbers, by the way. Waters are getting warmer. Lobster catches are on the rise. The lobster stock is healthy. Landings are great. The price is strong, getting stronger, please God. I was sent pictures in March of cargo planes in Halifax being loaded full, absolutely full of Nova Scotia lobster, not sure where they were headed. Undercurrent News, that's a US-based seafood news outlet, reported in mid-February, lobster fishermen were getting $13 a pound at the wharf in Nova Scotia. $13 a pound. And that's $5 a pound more than in January. Now, prices are lower now than $13, obviously, but all the signs point to a good lobster season ahead. Now, pricing. How does pricing work for lobster? So lobster is priced at the wharf in Nova Scotia, like a lot of other species. That does not happen here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And instead of a set price for lobster, by set price I mean like $2.20 a pound for crab to start the season. That $2.20 was set by the panel after the FFAW and processors couldn't agree on price. The panel set the price for them. The lobster price to the inshore fleet here in this province is determined by a pricing formula. The FFAW and processors came up with a pricing formula for lobster in 2011. The formula has been in use for 12 years, and the formula is known as the Urner-Barry formula because it's based on the Urner-Barry index. So Urner-Barry is a seafood news source in the United States, and that Urner-Barry provides information on the price of live lobster into the American retail market twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those numbers, those Urner-Barry numbers, are used as the basis for determining the price of live lobster in this province. So the formula spits out how much Newfoundland fishermen are to be paid for their lobster catch. Besides lobster, pricing formulas are also used to set the price of halibut and lump roe. The union and processors tried to negotiate a pricing formula this year for snow crab, but they couldn't agree. So there's no formula for snow crab. In lobster news this week here in Newfoundland and Labrador, the latest in lobster news, the price setting panel decided to roll over the lobster pricing formula from last year. So the same formula that was in place last year for setting the lobster price will be used again this year. No change. They didn't tinker with it one bit. The lobster pricing formula went to the panel because processors were trying to tack 15 cents a pound onto the lobster price, but the panel ruled against it. And I'm not going to get into that 15 cents right now. I don't think the panel's decision on lobster even made the news. The FFAW published a note on its Facebook page. The note read, quote, "Panel selects FFAW position for lobster." That was pretty much it. That was the full extent of the message. Another win for the FFAW. And the bottom line was the panel went with the union position. What the union failed to mention in that Facebook post was that the panel also recommended an independent consultant study the lobster situation. The panel made that same recommendation last year, only it didn't happen. But let me simplify the issue. As a lobster fisherman, you're paid for your lobster in the spring as if it's sold to the market right away in the spring. You're paid spring prices, in other words. But that lobster may be kept in holding tanks and not sold until September, and then at much higher prices. So let me quote the panel report. The lobster pricing formula in its current format is based on the industry as it existed in 2011. When the formula was initially adopted, it was generally accepted that the lobster purchased in 1 week was shipped out the next. However, the timing of exports, as shown in Government of Canada export data, calls this into question. September 2021 and September 2022, 2 full months after the close of the lobster fishery and 3 months after the majority of lobster is landed, was the second most valuable export month for processors. September, not April or May. To me, that's pretty much proof that owner-operators are not getting fair market share for their catches. Again, the panel said there should be a study into the lobster situation by an independent consultant. I'd say there should be a full-fledged investigation to see if the inshore fleet is being ripped off on its lobster prices, and for how long, because it sure looks like it has been. But that's just me. I don't have to tread so softly with my words like the price-setting panel. It's obvious that this lobster formula is not working for the inshore fleet, certainly not with holding tanks designed to hold a lobster until the price is highest, and then the fishermen don't get a fair market share of that higher price. Who paid for those holding tanks, I wonder? Was there any federal money from the Atlantic Fisheries Fund thrown in the mix? The panel report said this: a number of large and medium-sized Newfoundland and Labrador processors have significantly increased their holding capacity so they can sell into the market later in the year when prices have risen. Boy, I tell you, that may work for the buyer, for the processor, but it doesn't work for enterprise owners. The processors are using the tanks to capitalize on the highest price, and the inshore fleet is not getting a fair market share of that higher price. The price setting panel has been clear on what to do about this. What do you do about it? The lobster pricing formula should be based on actual receipts that show the prices processors are actually receiving from the market and the timing of their sales into the market. That's the solution. Use market receipts, actual market receipts, to prove when the lobster sold and for how much it sold. The problem is the Association of Seafood Producers will not release the information, and the provincial government won't force them. That means the pricing system cannot work in terms of a fair market share to the lobster fleet. From my perspective, if the Association of Seafood Producers, processors, won't release the actual receipts, then the lobster pricing formula must be scrapped, must be done away with, because it's not working. It is not delivering a fair market share to the inshore fleet. A last point I'll make on this. The pricing panel pointed out problems, weaknesses with the lobster pricing formula this year and last year. The FFAW hasn't said a word publicly about it. Why not? The union's #1 responsibility as collective bargaining agent for owner-operators is to negotiate the price of fish. The panel has been clear. The inshore fleet may not be getting a fair market price for lobster with a pricing formula that does not work in this day and age. It's not enough to say the processors won't give us the information. It's not enough to say, boo-hoo, the province won't make the processors give us the information. That's not enough. Lobster pricing needs a full review, full stop, immediately, without delay. Thanks for your time. That's the word today on lobster.